Jackson Storm, the main antagonist of Cars 3, can he beat the World Grand Prix racers? Or at least win the World Grand Prix? Well, for this question I'm asking, we're going to be ultimately replacing McQueen here with Jackson because, yeah, that's essentially how it is going to be working. If Jackson Storm were to replace a Cars 2 McQueen era in Cars 2, would he able to beat the World Grand Prix racers, and would he able to win the World Grand Prix championship as a whole? And also for this race, we're going to be removing the cameras that the Lemons use, because basically that's the end all be all for a racer when it gets hit by it or it fully scans like an EMP per se. But yeah, without further ado, let's talk about it. Now, the first race in Tokyo, the first race in the beginning of the World Grand Prix, in the beginning of Cars 2. Now, since Jackson has ultimately replaced McQueen here, you would pretty much expect mostly the same things to occur in the first race, because ultimately, at this point, Jackson is pretty much faster than McQueen in pretty much every conceptual way. He would ultimately be able to outspeed the other World Grand Prix racers at the start and ultimately be at the front. But now we have the dirt track section. The dirt track section is where Jackson's racing skills will truly be put to the test, because although Jackson may be really fast and in his prime right now, he hasn't really shown being able to race on dirt. And even then, in the Cars 3 Driven to Win video game, he ultimately struggles to even race around in that dirt, and he barely even just kind of really drives out of the mud while Miss Fritter is chasing him. So ultimately, I expect him to fumble up during the dirt track section, much like Francesco did in the movie. But ultimately, much like Francesco, Jackson will eventually keep up once the dirt racing section is over, and he will eventually rise up to the top and ultimately win the first race. And now we have reached Italy, the second race within Cars 2 and the second race of the World Grand Prix. Now, since once again, Lightning is no longer here, instead Jackson is taking McQueen's place, I would expect this race to remain mostly the same as it did in the movie, as Francesco would probably try to banter with Jackson, but Jackson would ultimately just insult him back. But now it's time, how would Jackson do in a race? Well, I would feel that he would also win this one as well, because really, in the end, without the cameras or the Lemons or other spies and all that other crap and stuff in the movie, without any of those things, Jackson would really have no other way to be stopped, because ultimately, in the end, Jackson is still faster than everyone else in the World Grand Prix, especially in his prime in Cars 3. So the only place that he would probably struggle in is the tight corner within the beginning of the race, because Francesco would ultimately pass him. But once again, when it comes down to it, in conclusion, Jackson wins this one again. And now we have made it to the final race. The final race of both Cars 2 and the World Grand Prix. We have arrived at London. Now, because that the Lemons were such a huge factor and inclusion to the plot, especially in the last race of the movie, we're still going to have to be cutting them, because like I said in the beginning, they're not important here in this video we're talking about. Jackson would have pretty easily have died if the camera had scanned him and EMP'd him, killing him instantly. But in the end, I would still have to say that Jackson still wins the London race as well. Even without the Lemons stuff, Jackson is still just faster than the rest of the World Grand Prix racers, having a top speed of 214 miles per hour as confirmed by Cars 3. He could very easily keep up with the rest of the racers, outspeed them, and eventually just win. Now, the other racers might be more skilled when it comes to driving and skilled when it comes to just overall racing experience compared to Jackson, which might keep them in the game for obviously just as long as he is. But still, Jackson would just beat them, essentially. And that's essentially it. That's the end of the video. There are only 3 races in Cars 2, so We never had the chance to dive into any other countries in the movie, probably because they got scrapped earlier on. But yeah, that's my video. So, do you think that Jackson could beat the World Grand Prix and win the championship? Do you think he's faster than the other racers? So yeah, you can comment down that below and stuff. And see you guys in the next video. Hope you guys enjoyed. Goodbye.